You're just in time for NTV Weekend Edition ahead. Supreme Court Justice Njoki Dongwo now invites the DCI to investigate her and prove or discount allegations of graft against her.
Hata hakuna njaa. Hata hiyo ni mambo ya waandishi wa habari. Mtu kama huo ni adui ya Wakenya.
The biting drought and the deaths from hunger that just won't disappear.
Experts are saying this is the terrible new normal. Tutakuwa tunatoka floods, tunaenda kwa drought.
Deputy President leads relief food distribution in Mandera despite denial of deaths caused by hunger.
Ako na chama kidogo ya watu 5 sijui watu 10 ya kabila yake. Alafu wao ndio wanatupatia lecture ati vile Kenya tunataka kuunganisha watu. Wewe utaunganisha watu namna gani?
Deputy President rubbishes allegations of graft in government as he maintains claims of a plan to destroy the Jubilee party.
Na tusikubali wale watu ambaye wana historia ya kuvunja vyama katika hii nchi.
And our special feature, The Great Thirst, airs tonight.
NTV Weekend Edition with Gladys Gachanja.
Thank you for making time. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Ateno. Now, Supreme Court Judge Njoki Dongwo has asked the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to investigate allegations of corruption leveled against her. The judge, who is among the 4 accused of corruption and abuse of office, wrote to the DCI after a petition seeking to remove her from office was filed to the Judicial Service Commission. This is even as Migori Governor Obado distanced himself from accusations that he built a road to the home of Supreme Court Judge Jackton Ojwang as a reward for a favorable ruling. NTV Silas Apollo with more.
Supreme Court Judge Njoki Dongwo says in a letter addressed to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations that some of the allegations raised against her could only be resolved through an impartial investigation. Justice Dongwo says the accusations, which are part of a petition seeking to oust her from office, suggest criminal culpability on her part and as such calls for investigations by a department equipped to delve into the matter. The judge, who has maintained her innocence, says that she wants the investigations done in concurrence with the proceedings of the Judicial Service Commission, which is currently probing the matter to verify the authenticity of the allegations. Justice Dongwo wants the DCI to investigate whether there was any communication between her and persons mentioned in the petition, whether there was a leakage in the judgment before it was read out, and comments made before the ruling to show if there were any hints of corrupt practices. The judge has been accused of receiving bribes alongside her colleagues Smokin Wanjala, Mohamed Ibrahim and Jackton Ojwang to influence a decision that upheld the election of Wajir governor, a matter under investigations by the JSC. In Migori County, Governor Obado said the allegations that he had built a road to the rural home of Supreme Court Judge Jackton Ojwang were mere fabrications. Obado said the road was constructed to serve residents of the county and not the judge.
No private road that the county government constructed leading to Justice Ojwang's home. That is a public road, and even if you look at its current condition, it can't really merit somebody to make a lot of noise by saying, oh, the county government did this and that.
Obado is accused of constructing the road in exchange for a favorable ruling in a case involving the Sugar Belt area, and which is now under investigations by the JSC. Justice Ojwang, who had declined an invitation by the JSC to clear his name, says the accusations lack merit.
It is purely witch hunting, and roping in Obado's name is simply to make it look dirtier, to sound so bad to the public.
Silas Apollo, NTV.
To the drought that has hit parts of the country, a section of leaders from Turkana County have challenged the county's leadership to prioritize the availability of food and water in the county's budget allocations to mitigate deaths during drought seasons. In the meantime, more and more Turkana residents continue to plead with the national and county governments to supply them with relief food. Lois Wangoi reports.
In a recent meeting chaired by Governor Nanok, his cabinet and other county leaders agreed to a supplementary budget of 1.9 billion shillings, monies which the county will channel towards feeding its people during this ongoing drought season. A section of leaders now want Governor Nanok and his county assembly to always prioritize food security to avoid the kind of situation the county finds itself in.
Maneno ya emergency ya drought, tuweke kifua mbele, ili tusiweze kukua kwa aibu kila wakati ya kusema Turkana County ina face.
Area leaders confirm that Kenyans in Turkana are dying from starvation while appealing for help from the national government.
Drought ikiwa mahali, ukame ikiwa mahali, wanyama wakufe, wakose maji, wakose nyasi. Binadamu hawa wa Turkana 98% wanatumia mifugo, wanategemea mifugo. Mifugo ikikufa na wakosa nyasi, kwa nini wenyewe wasikufe?
Deep in the villages, the struggle to keep alive is rife. At Mzee Erington Akwan's homestead, wild fruits for lunch is all they have for a meal.
Sasa iko na njaa, kila siku sisi iko na njaa.
Most residents have left their homes in search of food, water and pasture for survival. Those who did not take the journey, like Aropei Amaja, and others are counting losses after their livestock lost the battle to a prolonged dry spell here.
Njaa ni mingi sana. Naumia kabisa. Ngalia hata mwili kabisa. Ngalia hata mwili kabisa.
The irony is the National Irrigation Board has set up Katilu irrigation scheme in this very constituency where Kenyans are starving. Its capacity is too small. The produce here is majorly supplied to school feeding programs. The National Irrigation Board is being challenged to ensure all its dead projects in Turkana County are running. Most trees and shrubs here in Turkana County do not have a single leaf on them, as you can see, or any vegetation that can support animal husbandry, which is the main economic activity of the Turkana people. Now, this has added or compounded to the problem of drought and starvation. Residents tell us this happened because during the months of January and February, locusts invaded the county, eating away all the vegetation that would have gone to support animal husbandry, thereby ensuring that they survive this particular drought season. Lois Wangoi, NTV, in the county of Turkana.
And staying in Turkana, leaders have hit back at aid agencies seeking to raise funds for drought relief. The leaders termed those making funds appeal as drought terrorists and drought businessmen. The leaders insist the solutions for Turkana will only come from the Turkanas themselves. Year in, year out, Turkana hits the headlines with reports of hunger-related deaths, followed by appeals for food aid. Now, the county has been on the spot over the various challenges it faces, including resource allocation, response and mitigation efforts. The leaders lashed out at the media for its coverage of the situation in their county.
Kuna watu sisi naita drought terrorists. Wanazunguka kwa dunia wakitafuta pesa, wakuzungusha picha mbaya mbaya ya kusema Turkana imeumia njaa, wakati wanapewa hiyo pesa hawaleti hapa, wanapeleka kwa kumbe na mama yao, madada yao, ndio anahisi njaa si wa Turkana haifika hapa. Nataka serikali iweze kuchunguza watu hao wezi matafeli. Hadi wanataka kuchangisha pesa, hiyo biashara sisi hatutaki. Tunajua Ministry of Devolution wa serikali wapewe pesa walete chakula.
I want to challenge the media, all of it, that particularly the television stations that are doing shows in the morning, shows in the evening. Don't focus on experts who have very little understanding of our way of life and the challenges where we've come from and where we are going. Give us one whole month. Give Turkana leaders 1 month. You come there and the public challenges us on the issues about Turkana, on the problems and what we are doing about it.
To some politics, Deputy President William Ruto has dismissed those accusing the Jubilee administration of engaging in rampant corruption, terming them as people using propaganda to tarnish the government's development track record. Now, the Deputy President says Jubilee government is not corrupt. At the same time, a section of ODM leaders have dismissed claims by some Jubilee leaders that ODM is using the famous handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila to destroy the Jubilee party.
This weekend, Deputy President William Ruto, accompanied by a section of Jubilee leaders, pitched camp in Mandera town. The DP reiterated his stand that there is no corruption in the Jubilee administration.
Huwezi kuondoa rekodi ya Jubilee kutumia propaganda ya ufisadi. Haiwezekani. Rekodi ya Jubilee inajulikana. Kama serikali ya Jubilee ingekuwa serikali ya fisadi, tungejenga barabara. Watu wawache mchezo nani.
However, opposition leader Raila Odinga, who was in Wajir town, has condemned the deputy president and his allies for attacking the multi-agency team in its war against corruption, particularly the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. On his side, Ruto chided those using corruption allegations to criticize the government, saying they failed during their own time in government.
Mambo ya ufisadi sasa iwe mikono ya wachunguzi na mahakama. Uchunguzi fanyike, wale ambao wamehusika washikwe na washtakiwe. Sio kuongea juu yake.
Ni watu ambao wamekuwa mawaziri, wamekuwa watu wakubwa serikalini miaka karibu 30, hawakujenga barabara, hawakuunganisha stima, hawakuwa na mpango yoyote. Saa hizi wameenda kujificha katika mambo ya ufisadi.
The Jubilee leaders insist that for unity to be realized in the country, politics of ethnicity must come to an end. As some of the Jubilee leaders accused the ODM leaders of using the handshake to destroy the Jubilee party, the ODM leaders insist that Jubilee leaders are the cause of their own problems.
Mtu wako na chama ya kabila, ako na chama kidogo ya watu 5, sijui watu 10 ya kabila yake. Alafu wao ndio wanatupatia lecture ati vile Kenya tunataka kuunganisha watu. Wewe utaunganisha watu namna gani na wewe unaendesha chama ya kabila yako?
As an individual, we have invested in this party. It's like a company. We have seen the dividend. We have seen the profits. And we will not allow that. I am one person and I will be counted. I will not go down in history as a majority leader of the ruling coalition that Jubilee was destroyed when I was in office. I will not.
Sasa mimi nashangaa. Kwa sababu Jubilee tayari wako na presidential candidate wawili. Moja ni Moses Kuria, ingine ni William Ruto. Si tayari imevunjika? Sisi tunaingilia wapi hiyo maneno?
Siasa yetu ya Jubilee iko imara, na watu wakichoka na hii chama wanaweza kubadilisha waende chama ingine, watawacha chama kwa wenyewe. Chama ina wenyewe.
Ruto mimi peke yake naweza muangusha. Mimi peke yake. Hata baba hajaingia hapo, mimi peke yake naweza toa vumbi mbaya sana, my friend.
The historic handshake and the ongoing war on graft have deeply divided the Jubilee party. One faction led by President Kenyatta and the other led by his deputy, William Ruto. Vincent Odur, NTV.
Elsewhere, ODM leaders have asked Deputy President William Ruto to stop blackmailing President Uhuru Kenyatta and step aside to allow investigations into his conduct in the loss of billions of shillings in corrupt deals. The leaders who spoke in Ugenya in Siaya County have accused Ruto of using proxies to fight the government's war against corruption.
Director of Criminal Investigation, Mr. Kinoti, you have the support of the Orange Democratic Movement. Soldier on. Arrest these thieves. These thieves who are stealing money. Money meant to irrigate Galana Kulan. Money which is meant to do dams. That is causing the Turkana people to die of hunger.
Na anasema kwamba wale watu ambao waliripoti, machief ambao waliripoti kwamba
wananchi wanakufa kule Turkana, wanasema hao machifu washikwe. Uwezi kuwa unatetemesha, unaangaisha wale machifu wadogo, watu wanyonge, watu wanakufa kwa njaa, na bado unaangaisha watu wanyonge pale chini.
Mr. President, wacha kupiga raundi mingi sasa. Hata wewe unajua huyo mtu ako karibu na wewe. Chukua amri, peleka huyo mtu nyumbani.
Ruto is a very young man. But Ruto, the recklessness with which you are handling public funds is going to haunt you forever and ever.
Back to the drought situation update. As the drought continues to bite, relief food is yet to reach some areas in Tiati, Baringo County. A tour of the hunger-ravaged villages in the region by NTV found that there are more and more villages that are yet to receive any relief food from the government days after Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa flagged off food aid. Elsewhere, NASA leader Raila Odinga has joined the heated conversation about hunger and drought that has hit several parts of the country. Raila says that those who claim nobody has died of hunger in Turkana and Baringo are enemies of the people of Kenya.
Londengo area in Tiati is among the worst hit by drought. The locals depend on their livestock, which have been dying off because of the drought. The plight of these children wasting away is, to say the least, heartbreaking for many. More than 50% of the children suffer from kwashiorkor, the most severe form of malnutrition. In all, local leaders say more than 17 people have died of hunger-related illnesses in Tiati and Baringo North sub-counties. Several villages are yet to receive any relief food a few days after Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa flagged off distribution of 600 tons of relief food. At the Chemolingot Hospital, nurses appear overwhelmed by the sheer number of women and children streaming in. Many have walked for hours, and on arrival, they're already tired and hungry. Dozens of children are acutely malnourished and need urgent intervention. Their sunken features perhaps aptly represent the ravages of hunger in the region.
The under 5, like majority of them, are malnourished. 90% of the children who come to the facility, when you take their weight and versus their height, you see that most of them fall in the severely malnourished side.
Tumeshuhudia watoto 5 ambaye tuliweza kupima na tukapata ya kwamba wako kwa kiwango tunaita severe acute malnutrition.
Deputy President William Ruto today flagged off distribution of relief food and water to residents of Mandera County. The government intervention comes days after the DP denied reports of deaths in Turkana and Baringo counties over the prevailing drought situation. Over 80,000 people in the county are in dire need of food aid.
Kiangazi imezidi sana. Sasa tunaomba hiyo msaada tafadhali ya chakula na hii mambo ya water tracking tuweze kusaidika kama sisi pia tunaendelea kufanya kazi yetu.
Hapa Your Excellency tumeweka milioni 7 na hiyo ikikwisha tena muitishe ingine tuongeze mafuta, haya malori yafikie kila Mkenya ambaye anahitaji maji na chakula.
In Wajir County, NASA leader Raila Odinga has hit out at Deputy President William Ruto's remarks that no one had succumbed to hunger-related causes.
Ni aibu kusikia viongozi wengine wakisema ati wote hawajakufa, hata hakuna njaa. Ati hiyo ni mambo ya waandishi wa habari. Mtu kama huo ni adui ya Wakenya.
The government has allocated 2 billion shillings to deal with the effects of the drought. Rozongoi, NTV.
Now, as many point a finger to corruption as the reason why we are seeing the drought situation right now, a group of leaders from Rift Valley region have declared their support for President Uhuru Kenyatta's fight against corruption. Speaking at Chebonei Girls Secondary School in Bomet County, the leaders asked the Deputy President's allies to stop hurling insults against the president. Baringo Senator Gideon Moi has urged the government to be transparent about the drought that has affected the 13 counties and provide foodstuff. The leaders have asked leaders who are under investigation to refrain from dragging their communities through their problems whenever they are put under the spotlight.
Unatupatia mahindi ambayo iko store
na tuko na wakulima huko Nandi, Uasin Gishu, Trans Nzoia mpaka Bungoma ambayo bado wako na mahindi kwa store, bado iko kwao. Tungependa serikali inunue hiyo mahindi, ipatie sisi na ipatie ile makaunti zingine 13.
Mimi naunga mkono mambo ya kuleta jamii yote ya Wakenya kukaa pamoja. We need peace so that our children can grow. We need peace so that we can proceed with development. We don't want matusi, and we don't want communities to fight against other communities.
Drive in Mandera town. Majority Leader Aden Duale said the chain link wire mesh used in the project is substandard. Duale said shilling 3.9 billion meant for the project had been embezzled, leading to shoddy work, and asked the Auditor General to probe it.
Sasa kutuambia unajenga ukuta na 3.9 billion na wewe umejenga ile kisigenge ya kuku.
Isiolo women representative Rahima Jaldesa said the project failed and is only meant to siphon taxpayers' money. The leader saying what had been built so far was weak.
Iyo sisi tunaelewa ni kwa sababu gani? Ni kwa sababu wanaume wamejipanga kuja kukulia maisha ya watu wetu.
This wall. And what we are saying is that except for a small stretch here, most of the other places we don't need the wall because it's a money laundering project. We feel that it's a scandal which needs to be looked at.
The firebrand politician asked the government to instead place its focus elsewhere to effectively fight Al-Shabaab.
Sisi tunataka security between Somalia na Mandera enhanced through security civilians. Wafanye security intelligence.
The leaders threatened to retable the motion again as the country was losing millions through the corruption in the wall project. The wall was meant to create a strategic entry point beside capping Al-Shabaab attacks. It is supposed to run from Mandera border point 1 to Kiunga in Lamu County. It is being constructed by a government multi-agency team spearheaded by the Kenyan Defence Forces. In October last year, Kenya suspended construction of the border wall with Somalia to pave way for bilateral talks with Somalia. Ahmed Abdi, NTV, Mandera.
Well, we apologize for that earlier mishap. That was a report even as northeastern leaders expressed their dissatisfaction with the ongoing construction of a border wall along the Kenya-Somalia border. Now led by Garissa Member of Parliament and Majority Leader Aden Duale, the leaders termed the project as shoddy and an embezzlement of public funds and asked the government to suspend it. NTV's Ahmed Maulid with the details from Mandera. Okay, we are trying to get that story back to us so that you can get the full report. But even as we wait on that, remember that there is a bout that is going to be taking place this evening, and a lot is expected from that. And reigning World Boxing Council WBC Super Bantamweight champion Fatuma Zarika takes on Zambian Catherine Piri in a title defense bout at 11 p.m. at KICC grounds. Now, ahead of that much anticipated rematch, 4 undercard fights are lined up, with Kenyan Olympian Rayton Okwiri currently taking on Tanzania's Pascal Bruno in the middleweight. Now, NTV will air the Nairobi fight against Extravaganza, and Ida Waringa is already at the KICC. Ida, what can you tell us?
Well, Gladys, I can barely hear you, and I hope you can hear me at least just a bit. We tried doing the live link from inside, but it's just so noisy that we had to come outside and just try and get a glimpse and a gauge of the situation and the atmosphere here at the Nairobi Fight Night. It's Fatuma Zarika, reigning WBC Super Bantam Women's Champion, taking on Zambian Catherine Piri in a rematch. Now, we talked a lot about this on Top Sport earlier, so I'll give it to Daily Nation reporter Celestine Olilo, who is here with me to just take us through the results so far. There were 4 undercard fights. Some of them are still currently going on. And Celestine, to you, nice to be here with you. And of course, just give us a run-through of some of the fights that have happened so far.
Well, I think Kenyans have begun very strongly. We have seen Rachel Okwiri already has beaten his opponent in the welterweight category in the first match, and he beat him by a technical knockout. And so we expect a very interesting night where Kenyans are poised to win. You can see the crowd out here. Every Kenyan has come here, and so many more are watching back home, and they want that the Kenyan team, the Kenyan contingent, will be able to win and will be able to make them happy as they continue with their weekend festivities.
Fantastic stuff. So much action going on here, and as we've said, it's a rematch for Piri and of course Fatuma Zarika. What do you think will be the big difference, Celestine, between the last fight in 2017 December and tonight?
Well, you remember in 2017 when Zarika beat Piri to win the Super Bantamweight title. Piri was quite frail. You know, Piri is actually younger than Zarika. He's 2 years younger, 32 and 34, and so he was just coming into the scene. But now he's fought 3 more fights between 2017 and today, and so he's gotten a lot of experience that he didn't have at that time in 2017. So it's going to be a very interesting match. And remember, Piri has told people that it's going to be a very short fight, that it's going to go all the way, and that he's going to revenge, or rather avenge, the loss that he suffered here in Nairobi in 2017.
I like that. Come one, come all. Celestine is amped. She's hyped. Well, so am I. Gladys, I wonder if I'll be seeing you here much later on. But nonetheless, all roads do lead to the KICC. It's the Nairobi Fight Night hashtag to use. It's Fatuma Zarika versus Zambian Catherine Piri. Back to you, Gladys.
Thank you, Ida Waringa. Clearly having a lot of fun, even as that bout is coming up at 11 p.m. Remember, it's coming to you live from NTV. Stay with us. And speaking of which, our special feature, The Great Thirst, airs right after this break. Thank you for staying with us. A widow and a mother of one child, Gladys Gachanja, is crying foul after her child was kidnapped today by a stranger who lured the toddler away from her using toys. Now, the kidnap happened in the Central Business District, and Gladys claims that she was approached by a lady who she describes as fat and brown, who was trying to convince her into buying her little girl, Gift Wanjiku, referred to as Shiko, by buying her milk every day for a week. Gladys says that the lady had once asked her and little Shiko to visit her home in Uthiru on Sunday. She says that this is not the first time that the perpetrator has approached her with an offer to buy her child, an offer that Gladys strongly refused. Gladys has filed a missing child report at the Central Police Station in Nairobi, but she claims the police have brushed her off, saying that they can't follow up on her case since the 2-year-old doesn't have a phone and therefore can't trace her whereabouts. She is now appealing to the public to help her find her child.
Sasa juzi kuna mama alikuja kuniambia ati nimuuzie mtoto. Nikakataa kumuuzia mtoto. Sasa leo pale mimi naekanga mtoto hapo smoking zone ya Amazon. Huyo mama amekuja akachukua mtoto. Alafu mtoto nilizaa na operation. Ile operation ya 3 siwezi zaa tena. Sisi tutatoa mtoto mwingine. Ningeomba tu mama akikama ananisikia mali yako anirudishie tu mtoto wangu tafadhali tu.
Anyone with any information on the whereabouts of Gift Wanjiku, please, you can reach us or any nearest police station, as Gladys, the mother, deserves to be with her child. Now, the World Water Day is celebrated every 22nd day of March, and as Kenya joined the world on Friday to mark the day under the theme of leaving no one behind, it did so under the weight of the millions of Kenyans who have no access to clean drinking water. But as the government keeps making promises of working to ensure water reaches every Kenyan, the scars of last year's drought remain when the country found itself on the verge of a crisis, caught in the middle of one of the worst droughts in decades and dangerously low on water. A few months on, has the country learned anything? Well, Zaina Bondati now expounds on the water stress that millions of Kenyans live under. This is The Great Thirst.
Lamu is one of Kenya's most magical places. Sitting pretty on Kenya's coast, thousands of tourists cross these waters to the islands to experience the magic. But beneath the allure of tourism and the rich culture that make Lamu magical, there's a lesser pleasant reality that is at the core of the existence of the people of this island. These people are thirsty. Water, fresh water particularly, is scarce, and last year's drought was particularly tough. Kizingitini on Pate Island, located in Lamu East constituency, is among the parts of Lamu that suffers perennial water scarcity. For the locals here, the value of a drop of water is an entire boat ride from Lamu Island, 40 kilometers away. But even that is not always guaranteed.
Gharama ambao walikuwa wanatoa pengine 30,000 kwa boti moja. Tena boti moja peke yake, na ikienda haiendi na kurudi, inaenda inalala pengine siku 3. Ili siku 3 yake ifanyeje ije na maji Kizingitini. Nakumbuka kitu kimoja, kulikuwa ukame si sana wakati nilikuwa mdogo. Maji ya majabia yakikaa mpaka the next season yakilikuwa na mvua nyingine. Lakini kulingana miaka 10 ambayo imepita ama miaka 15, mvua imekuwa scarce.
Hatuna mahali pa kwenda kutoa maji kabisa. Ikiwa maji hapa hakuna, tunachota Chundwa, Kizingitini, na Kizingitini kimalizika basi hatuna mahali pa kuchota maji.
Most of the water in so many parts of Lamu is turning to be saline of late. Like we have a whole of Lamu East constituency or sub-county where water is saline.
For 200 years, these streets of Takwa were so full of life, sustaining 2,500 people who lived here and the 150 households within the walls of Takwa ruins. And for those 200 years, this settlement could withstand anything, including attacks from neighboring islands. But the one thing that the people here could not live without is water. This town is serviced by 2 wells, this one and another one just outside the walls of the town. Now what happened is that the waters within this well started becoming saline. Now engineers call it saltwater intrusion, but to the people here it just simply means that they could not drink that water anymore, and so they had to leave.
It is because of the climatic changes in this entire region. I think it is one of the reasons why the water table, the fresh water table went low, and finally the saline water overtakes fresh water.
Climate change, whether we like it or not, is on us. There's a lot of pollution. The clouds are changing. The rains are coming very late.
And part of the problem for Lamu is that at the back of the old town there are a series of sand dunes which used to act as a water catchment area for fresh water. But because of the increasing population and the increasing usage and consumption of that fresh water, it's now becoming brackish. So they're finding that some of their shallow wells in Lamu are now pulling brackish water instead of fresh water.
Several research has been conducted in the town some years back. Some researchers have come, and then they thought that we could find fresh water just nearby the site, maybe somewhere near the hills just before you approach the open sea. Recently we have been able to dig one of the wells in the town, but unfortunately we couldn't find fresh water.
One of the reasons I came here was because I felt climate change was going to affect the water availability all over the country. So we're finding all the way up and down the coast, from places like Dar es Salaam, Mombasa, to a certain extent also all the way down to Maputo and all the way up to Mogadishu, that population centres that had water, fresh water, no longer have it. For example, in Mombasa's case, we're seeing diversions of huge amounts of water to the city, and it's still only able to satisfy 60% of the demand. In Dar es Salaam, there are very few sources of fresh water available anywhere.
Mimi naona kwamba ni shida hii ya maji, pamoja na kwamba ilikuwa ni matatizo yaliweza kuwafikia watu ambao wakaaji wakiishi katika hiyo miji, ilisababishwa na ile tunaita kwa kimombo water membrane, ikianza kuvunjika kwa sababu ni very fragile. Ikianza kuvunjika, labda inasababishwa kwa sababu ya kuchota maji kutoka kwa visima kwa muda mrefu sana. Inasababisha maji yaende chini, na ile water membrane ikianza kuvunjika ndio sasa inasababisha uvujaji wa maji ya chumvi katika hivyo visima. Kwa hivyo sasa, kwa hali hiyo ilisababisha watu wengi wakahamahama wakaenda sehemu nyingine ambazo waweza kupata maji fresh. Hivi sasa watu wanajenga majabia ya kuweza kupata maji ya mvua, lakini ukiangalia katika hii sehemu ya hususan upande wa Lamu hatupati mvua nyingi sana, na ndio ukaona kwamba shida hii inajirudia kila wakati.
Takwa ruins on Manda Island perhaps represents the future that Lamu County faces as boreholes continues turning saline, a future that the county government says it is desperate and quickly trying to prevent from becoming a reality.
We are getting more numbers because of the opening up of Lamu as a county. We have the mega projects like the coal-powered projects. We have the issue of the LAPSED. We have the construction of the Gersen Lamu main road, and the associated developments with the LAPSED that are supposed to be, which we expect. So there is upsurge in terms of population. One, for those people who come to settle permanently, and also you have people who come to work in those related developments.
Island ya Lamu ni sehemu ya chemchemi ya maji, ni Lamu sand dunes, ama tunasema Shela sand dunes. Hizo sand dunes ndio zimehifadhiwa, ni chemchemi za maji peke yake ambazo zinaweza kusupply maji kisiwa kisima cha Lamu. Na hiyo sehemu iwapo zitakuwa hazitohifadhiwa, labda in future tunatarajia kwamba pengine watu wa Lamu waweza kukosa maji kwa sababu ya encroachment.
The only things that we think that can are solutions to Lamu is we have to tap water from Tana River and supply it to Lamu. Otherwise, the shallow wells that we have are drying up and they're becoming saline. And then the only other alternative that we have is desalination of this saline water, which is turning up to be a very expensive affair that the county is struggling.
The full capacity of the plant is in the region of 40,000 litres a day, but the plant will be producing around 12,000 litres a day because it's operating on solar power only.
One such plant is in Kizingitini, serviced by 2 wells. Locals are limited to just 2 jerrycans per household per day. That's 40 litres only per family. This is part of the rationing program to enable them to survive the drought.
Kutoka hapo na kwa the salt inaenda kando na fresh inaenda. Sasa ile salt yenyewe inaenda baharini. Ile waste inaenda baharini. Inakuwa kama recycle. Halafu inakuja tena kwenye kisima.
Basis Africa runs one of the 3 desalination plants in Lamu, located in Siu. Like the other 2, its capacity is limited and can only supply 8 litres of water per day per person. The plant is solar powered. There have been some concerns that desalination is not necessarily a good idea because it strips the water of all minerals, and what is left is just a plain flat liquid with little benefits to the body.
Desalination has its own limitation. The countries that have perfected this desalination process are countries which have no alternative water source, like the Middle East, the Arab world, where the only source of water is the sea. When you go to Dubai, when you go to Oman, these countries are using seawater to support their services and water needs. But in this country, Kenya, we still have fresh water sources. Desalination is an expensive venture because of the mechanization involved. So in the end, sometimes the cost of water outstrips the cost of oil.
2018 will go down in history as the year Nairobi nearly ran out of water. Caught in one of the worst droughts, the city found itself on the verge of thirst as the rains failed and Dakaine Dam, the city's biggest source of water, hit the lowest levels in history at 75% empty.
That dam holds 70 million meters cube of water. Every day Nairobi requires 526,000 meters cube per day. So as we pump out water from Dakaine, there must be an equivalent recharge from the rivers. And if these rivers are depleted or they are dry, then you can only use what is in store and it can only last a certain period.
The system here was constructed in 1993. At the time it was completed, there was enough water for the city and there was even extra. It was always a tradition to always have a 10-year-old plan, a 10-year plan. So it was expected that in 2003 that another system would be constructed because we operate on 10-year plan. Now when we picked up, we are picking up 10 years late. Of course the population has been rising. And now that is why now we are getting into this situation where the population growth has exceeded the water available.
This is the crisis that many parts of the country find themselves in as the skies remain clear and the taps run dry. So bad was the 2018 water crisis that more than 10 schools in Baringo County were closed and 30 more in Nairobi faced the threat of closure. But this water crisis was not only unique to Kenya. Cape Town, one of the biggest cities in Africa, made headlines when it nearly ran out of water. A clock was put on it and the countdown to day 0 began.
This news went like wildfire in the whole world. Cape Town, you know, is actually the best city in South Africa. And it's the cleanest, by the way. And you never expected that they will do everything right and fail to plan for water supply. And that is a situation that as a Minister for Water I would not want to find ourselves in. So the lessons learned is, one, water is not free. The other lesson I've learned from Cape Town is forward planning is key. We must project population growth, the water sources,
and the transfer of water.
Kenya is not as bad as many countries, so the future is good. It's only we need more and more technical people to be trained. We need to be more innovative. We need to restructure the way we use water and the way we treat water.
Kenya's water supply heavily relies on rainfall to fill up the dams and rivers that supply the water, meaning that any delay in the rains greatly affects the country. No rain equals no water. Nairobi, for instance, would run out of water within 6 months if it didn't rain at all for an entire year.
The dam is no longer, is going forward, may not longer support the demand of today and going into the future. That's why our strategy as a ministry is to increase storage. We have a map, we have 57 dams that we have already identified, mapped out across the country, so that any rainwater, any runoff, any surface water, we are able to store the way we have done Dakaine. We have Mwache, which is 10 times the size of Dakaine.
In 2013, Kenya discovered underground water in Lotikipi, Turkana County, with 200 billion cubic meters of water, enough to serve the entire country for 70 straight years. Yet Turkana County itself is water scarce.
Simon!
This resource has not yet been exploited because the first test showed that the water was too salty for human consumption and would need to be desalinated through reverse osmosis. But Cabinet Secretary for Water Simon Chelugui is denying this, insisting that the aquifer is actually fresh water. The delay in exploitation, he says, is because the Lotikipi aquifer is not just a Kenyan resource and that exploiting it would need bilateral talks.
Lotikipi is an aquifer that we are exploring. In fact, 1 month ago, I was in Ethiopia because we share these aquifers, groundwater. We want to sign a protocol through the Nile, through the IGAT. We want to sign a protocol that allows us to share knowledge and resources on exploration of these aquifers which cut across Ethiopia and Kenya.
The Water Services Regulatory Board has in the last few years mapped out the country to determine exactly how many Kenyans have access to water of drinkable quality and the sources of this water. The results showed that only 60% of the population have access to water, while a greater percentage of the population is not covered by piped water. The WASREB report revealed that at least 40% of the water piped cannot be accounted for, as it disappears before it even gets to the consumer. In Nakuru Rural, for instance, 85% of the water is lost in the pipes without ever getting to the consumer.
Kenya is actually a water scarce country and it's registered as such. So because for survival, you need about 100,000 meters cubed of water per year, per person. In Kenya, we are doing 647 meters cubed of water per person. So we are actually a water scarce country. So we should treat each drop of water with a lot of respect.
I would want to urge those counties, for example, which are up to now endowed with enough water, to really take it and guard it as God-given. They really need to visit those counties which are facing these problems now for them to be able to visualize the problem that they will be in if they don't take care of the water sources that they have.
Lamu County says it can provide water for its people within 5 years if it gets the financial muscle it needs. And with the long rain season already late, fears abound that the country is staring at another drought year, but hope remains that last year's dangerous situation will serve as a lesson of what happens when water security is not planned for. Zainab Wandati, NTV.
Hashtag the Great Thirst Painting realities, and we can only hope that those who are in charge have learnt a lesson or two. Now, to something else that you should be looking forward to tomorrow. They came to Kenya over a decade ago, allegedly on a charity mission, registered over 80 orphans and vulnerable children to a family home in Bomet County. Now, for the young ones, nothing could compare to the joy of enjoying a family setup, only it wasn't what it looked like. They were sexually exploited and their rights abused. This Sunday, NTV Investigates Praying Missionaries with Edmund Nyabole.
This family came to Kenya in the year 2008. I could hear children crying loudly in pain.
How many times were you sexually abused by Mr. Dow?
Like 3 times.
It was a sexual abuse on his own daughter.
And they told me to close my eyes, and they told us to put our arms like this. Then they shoot something fast here.
Children were not being taken to the hospital.
James was put into a box and then just put in the ground.
The department did not do a proper background check.
For me, I don't know about what you are talking about.
Parada na Jumia Mobile Week. The biggest mobile and accessory sale is live now. Download the Jumia app ujinyakulie Huawei Y7 Prime kwa 13,999 shillings. Infinix Note 4 Pro kwa 10,099 shillings. Na power bank at 5,200 milliamperes kwa 599 shillings. Jumia Mobile Week, 22nd to 31st March.
To the out-of-framers, the turtleneckers, the fringe growers, you don't need to hide anymore. Try Dettol Even Tone. It cleans and helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes caused by oil, dirt and germs, giving your skin a healthy feel. Join the millions that have switched to Dettol Even Tone, now also in pomegranate fragrance, a healthier skin for an even better you. Brought to you by the
Thank you for staying with us. One person has been killed in the latest robbery in a series that has hit several M-Pesa shops in the coastal city of Mombasa. The incidences that have been on the rise have sparked serious concerns about security in Mombasa County that may affect possible investments by entrepreneurs.
This appears to be an ordinary day for business people in Makande area, Mombasa. But the calm gives way to a subtle storm as these two young men, armed with what looked like a firearm, casually grabbed a woman's bag, boarded a boda and casually rode off, their calm demeanor indicative that this was not their first rodeo. A similar incident, however, did not end well for Jones Obino. The 32-year-old man was on Saturday at 7 in the morning shot dead by armed robbers at his M-Pesa shop in Jomvuku when he was opening his shop. Obino's wife heard screams from her house that prompted her to rush to the shop. The robbers made away with at least 200,000 shillings. The bereaved wife laments the loss, more so the gap left by her husband, who was the family's sole breadwinner.
Hiyo ni mara ya pili, because mara kwanza walikuja wakanikoni mimi, wakaiba pesa wakaenda.
Area residents have complained about the laxity of the police with regard to handling the troubling security situation in the area. Last week, the same shop was robbed of 150,000 shillings, which brings the total amount of the loss to 350,000 shillings in 2 weeks. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Time for another short break on NTV Weekend Edition. Next is Women and Power. A telecom engineer by training, Mary Ngesho ended up in the manufacturing industry completely by chance when she decided to join her husband in the family business. 11 years later, she is the managing director of Plast Group, which provides packaging solutions not only in Kenya, but the wider East African region. In 2017, Mary was celebrated as the UN in Kenya Person of the Year runners-up for her role in changing lives through promoting skills, decent jobs, and enterprises in the manufacturing industry. Today, she is at the front line of Takataka ni Mali, an initiative founded to ensure that we rid the environment of plastic waste. I spent a day with her at industrial area here in Nairobi on this week's Women in Power.
Women and Power, in association with Kenya Association of Manufacturers.
My name is Mary Ngesho. I'm the managing director for Plast Group. Plast Group is a synergy of two companies, one that deals with printing and another one that makes packaging. We use our synergy to pride ourselves as one-stop shop for your packaging solutions. About 11 years ago, my husband started the printing press, and I joined him after 1.5 years. I saw a gap because for every label that we were selling, our clients were putting the labels into a packaging. And I used to get a lot of them whining that they can't be able to get enough packaging material. They are not getting the packaging, the designs of what they want. When we started, I think the maximum we were doing was 1,000 bottles per hour. At the moment, we are able to do about 300 to 400,000 bottles in a day. When I started the packaging, I wanted to fill that gap that the SMEs were not being able to access raw materials, the packaging. Because in most entities, they want you to buy in big volumes. So we invested in small machines so that we are able to cater that market that needed small quantities. And we are also able to help them to manage their working capital. I will allow them credit facility because my suppliers also allow me credit facility. And when I travel to look for information to grow my package, I grow my packaging with them in my mind. For those maybe who don't have the advantage of traveling out there, I'm able to pass that information for them, how they can be able to improve their processes so that they can also be able to grow. And their growth is also my growth. My husband, before we started the printing, he worked in a printing press. And many times when you think that you want to start a business, you start with what you know. I worked before as a telecommunication engineer with Telcom. I worked for Telcom for 15 years. And when I joined him, not because of my engineering background, but I was coming to help sort his administration issues. When you start doing the manufacturing and you think the complexity of it is not complex because a lot of things are done by the machinery. So what really somebody needs to understand is the basic operation of the machine, get the right people, get the right machines, and you get a product. If we are usually able to manufacture babies as mothers, surely, what is manufacturing to ladies? So I think manufacturing ladies need to embrace it and stop looking at it as a job for the men. We should have confidence in ourselves. And I would specifically say in Kenya, we have very many women in manufacturing. It's only that they are not seeing themselves as manufacturers. We have the cottage industry that is driven by women. People who manufacture cosmetics in their kitchen, people who make detergents in their kitchen, people who make yogurts. This is manufacturing. I have about 243 now workforce that work for the group, and about 40% of them, they are ladies. I have intentionally put the women on the floor, and the reason why I have put them on the floor is for two things. I need to encourage them to know that they can be able to do it. Not only in my factory, it also empower them that when they go out there, they are not those ones of like weakling that these ones I cannot do, this is for the man and all that. So it helps them to grow their confidence. Plastic is one of the menace that has been talked about that we need to take care of. What I've done in my small way, I started a foundation that I call Takataka ni Mali Foundation. And what I'm doing with the Takataka ni Mali Foundation is that I work with women and youth group, more so in the dump site. And what we do is to train them on how to sort and separate waste. Then we also help to link them with the market, with the other recyclers. And they get good value of their waste because it's not trash anymore. It has been sorted and separated, so they get good value. They are able to feed their families out of it. The other key thing that we are trying to do is push that we don't have to take our waste to the dump site. We can be able to separate it from source, even before we pick and dump it. So when it has value, then we can be able to separate it from source and we can sell it from the source. So takataka ni mali, yes.
Women and Power, in association with Kenya Association of Manufacturers.
Please join us for the Energy Management Awards, April 12th, 2019, Safari Park Hotel.
Return for the National Special Olympics team after a successful medal hunt at the 2019 Special Olympics World Games held in Abu Dhabi, UAE. Team Kenya harvested 12 gold, 8 silver and 5 bronze from swimming, bocce, athletics, basketball, handball, volleyball and unified sports. Catherine Wanjue won gold in Division F8 50 meters. Stella Chepkosgei bagged gold in the 1500 meters races, while Marion Obiri and Effie Award won gold in the unified sports team event. Joseph Kamande took home silver in cycling. Four second-tier league matches played today. The Taxmen still top the standings on 48 points, but have played a game more than second place to Wazito FC and third place Kisumu All-Stars, who drew 1-1 against Kisumu All-Stars. Seventh place Bidco United overcame St. Joseph Youth 3-2, while Thika United lost 3-1 to Kenya Police. In a peak of Sunday's NSL matches, Wazito play Migori Youth and fourth placed Nairobi Steamer face Coast Steamer. In the Kenyan Premier League, AFC Leopards' surge away from the relegation zone continued with a 2-1 win over Western Steamer, while Bandari's stumble continued with a barren draw against Chemelil.
And Kisumu All-Stars pulled an upset at over host Thika Queens, pipping them 1-0 in one of the 3 FKF Women Premier League matches played today. Mercy Airo scored in the second half to break the deadlock. Meanwhile, Vihiga Queens whitewashed host Spedag 8-0 at the Kamtoyo grounds, with Terry Engesha netting 4 goals, Topista Situma scoring twice, and Felicitas Kadari and Diana Odinga also on target. And Kenya Cup defending champions KCB and Kabras Sugar maintained their winning ways and look set to secure automatic qualification to the playoffs. The national baseball team is preparing for Tokyo 2020 Olympic Africa Zone East qualifiers, while 80 students from 5 countries competed in an inter-schools and clubs Taekwondo competition in Limuru. Details of this and more in our local sports roundup.
Kenya Cup leaders Kabras Sugar bagged their 13th win of the season, overcoming top fry Nakuru RSC 34 points to 17 at the Nakuru Athletic Club. Second place KCB completed a double over Mwamba with a 27 points to 20 win, while third place Kenya Harlequins crushed Homeboys 32-17 at the RFUEA grounds. In other results, Impala thrashed Strathmore 38-19, Menengai Oilers stunned Nondis 30 points to 17, and 14-man Mean Machine schooled Blackblood 25 points to 3. The national baseball team is currently in residential training at the Rowland camp in Jamhuri Park ahead of their Tokyo 2020 Africa Zone East qualifiers for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. The zonal qualifier is scheduled for the 5th to the 7th of April at the Lenana School, with Uganda, Tanzania, Malawi and Zambia vying for a ticket to the final Africa qualifier in South Africa next year, where only one team from the continent will make it to Tokyo. 80 students from Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, Nigeria and Mozambique competed in the Inter-Schools and Clubs Taekwondo competition, which was organized by the International Taekwondo Federation Kenya branch. Kenya won in the 7 to 9 years and 10 to 12 years categories, with Ethiopia prevailing in the 18 to 20 age group bracket. Kisii County Assembly football team beat Nation Media Group FC 3-0 in an entertaining friendly match played at the Gusii Stadium. Kisii, who are coached by former Kenya international Henry Motego, scored through Donald Ratemo, Moha Ashman and Alan Monari. Nation FC is preparing for the new season of Left Foot League Division 4 after being promoted from Division 5.
In association with Nivea Dry Fresh Deodorants.
Remember, this one that can be decided by a knockdown. And if you're knocked out or if you're counted down and you can't beat the count, then the fight ends. We've seen already 3 technical knockouts in this night fight. And that's a good ride from Wakino. That's the kind that then gets you what you want when it lands. But everybody moves into a position where it becomes difficult to land the punches. And that will be the trick to find out how you can put your opponent into a position where you land the square punches.
I thought Wakino has a better reach. So instead of fighting the Argentine boxer, he should box. Let him not fight.
I would imagine that the right punch has had an effect on Gonzalez. The one that went into his right ribcage, the one that Wakino was sending. But obviously, from just the way it's being fought, everybody just tucking down, and even Gonzalez moving in very close means that he knows he can move in there and just unleash one punch that might end the fight, and that's what he's looking for.
I've not seen that lethal
there it is.
left.
He quickly releases it and then goes down ducking again, and that's the uppercut that he's looking for. This fight can be decided on a sucker punch. It just depends on who gets the opportunity. A second uppercut that Gonzalez releases. Wakino now then punches fast on the right. Still hasn't gotten a chance to use the left as well. Another uppercut. And Gonzalez is equally as dangerous as Wakino in this fight.
And Then another factor which can affect Gonzalez is the altitude.
Chini ya shafu.
Ile might also affect it because
he
is not showing any signs of aggression in him. He's waiting for Mwakinyo to punch and then he counter punches.
I can tell you for sure, Mwakinyo is having a devastating effect every time he punches onto the right ribcage of Gonzalez. He seems to be feeling a little pinch there. But when Gonzalez comes back with the right, it's catching Mwakinyo on the face as well. It can go either way in terms of that sucker punch, depending on who lands it better. But Gonzalez is avoiding to have Mwakinyo send the punches onto his right, left ribcage rather. And attempted an uppercut.
Not very effective.
Not very effective, but he's now just punching to keep Mwakinyo away. It's a very heavy punchers, aren't they?
Mwakinyo, of course, is throwing the heavier punches. Mwakinyo is stronger than the Argentine, as you can see.
He's not landing the punches, that's the problem. They need to land either for the point or for weakening of the body. Mwakinyo with his back to us now.